Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the virtual Ag Summit. It's great to have you participate. This is a little different format than we've done before, but very grateful to have some expert panelists all week, beginning with this morning, and just very grateful that we, even amidst COVID, we have this technology. I'd rather be with you face to face. But this technology allows us with COVID and with the miles in between for us to gather like this, and I think it can be particularly productive. I should probably apologize in advance that in technology what it is. I hope we don't have any hiccups. We've tried to plan for this, but there might be, so we appreciate your patience as we do move forward here. With us today, we have three special guests to update us on what their organizations have been doing to help Nebraska continue to grow in the housing area, housing and rural development. And I know we have a lot of challenges economically, especially these days with unemployment and workforce issues. And I'm just grateful to have folks here, these experts, as we do kick off the virtual Ag Summit, starting with rural housing and rural development. So, from USDA Rural Development today, we have Nebraska State Area Director Krista Metcher. And Krista joined USDA Rural Development in 1997, working in the Beatrice and Lincoln area offices, directly with the processing, underwriting, and approving of loans and grants for home purchase and repair. She works extensively with the regulation, delivery, oversight, approval, and outreach of the single-family housing programs, including the 502 Direct and 502 Guaranteed Home Purchase and 504 repair programs. Joining us from the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority, as we call NIFA, we have outgoing Executive Director Tim Kenny and incoming Executive Director Shannon Harner. So just in the last few days, we've seen that transition, but very grateful, Tim, for certainly your participation over the years, and as you do shift gears here a little bit, we're grateful that you're with us here today, and especially as you hand off the baton to Shannon. And NIFA provides financing for affordable and workforce housing development, medical facilities, community infrastructure, industrial development projects, and first-time farmers and ranchers. Tim served as Executive Director of NIFA from 1994 to August of 2020, just the last few days. Tim also served as Program Director and Executive Director for housing finance agencies in 2 other states with large ag constituencies. Under Tim's leadership, NIFA has provided financing for approximately 100,000 single and multifamily homes, and that's just in Nebraska. The incoming Executive Director of NIFA, Shannon Harner, grew up in Imperial. Sometimes I refer to folks, like that as imperialists, but we won't have to do that today. Shannon attended the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and then attended law school at Georgetown University Law Center. She returned to Nebraska, clerked with the Nebraska Court of Appeals, and then went into private practice in Lincoln with a focus on real estate. And most recently, Shannon served as CEO of Home Services of Nebraska before joining NIFA. So I would ask everyone, we're going to go through our presenters here today. They will share some remarks and updates. And as you think of questions, if you wouldn't mind going into the chat feature here on the Zoom program here, just go onto your screen, choose that chat feature, and fire off a question to Eric. I should introduce Eric from my staff. He works across the district here out of the Grand Island office, but Eric is from Geneva, and we certainly appreciate his service. So he will kind of be the moderator of questions. So if you want to share your question with Eric, just go into that chat feature and feel free to type in your question, and then Eric will read the question to all the participants, and we will go from there. But first, let's hear from our presenters. To kick things off, Krista from Rural Development, will you lead us with a general update of what you would say you and your agency have been doing to work on housing issues and promote rural Nebraska? So Krista, thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate you having USDA Rural Development be a part of this. I've been working in the housing department for 20 plus years, so this is kind of my passion, and I get really excited when we talk about housing in rural communities. So I do have a presentation here, and we'll see if I can get my screen shared. And there we go. So USDA Rural Development, this is our mission statement. We're committed to helping improve the economy and quality of life in rural America. And I usually just like to say life in rural Nebraska, because I'm passionate about Nebraska. America's great, but we want to focus on Nebraska. So we help through our programs in a lot of ways, and we do have a lot of programs through rural development. I like to say that it's kind of a best kept secret, but we don't want it to be a secret. We don't have a budget for advertising, so this is how we get the word out on our programs. We go to those rural communities, we talk to the leaders and the people in the rural communities because we want to have these programs known about. So when you think of USDA Rural Development, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And I know a lot of you are going to say what's on the screen. Probably not home purchase and repair financing. When you hear the words rural development, it's probably not the first thing that comes to mind. But it is indeed a big part of what we do at USDA Rural Development. A lot of people just don't even realize that we have these home programs. So again, that's what we want to get the word out about. These are fantastic programs. We do also have, in addition to those home programs, we do have business and energy programs that can help our rural communities. We have community facilities programs, and then we have multifamily housing programs. So you can see we've got a lot of different programs that work in the rural communities. But what I want to focus on today is our single-family housing programs. You can't have communities grow if you don't have housing. You can't bring jobs into a community if you don't have housing to put those people in. Some of the barriers that we see to affordable housing is people having a lack of cash for down payment. People aren't able to save as much as they used to back in the, I like to say, in the olden days. It's just it's a lot harder to make those paychecks stretch. An inability to meet the housing costs. Lack of available housing or substandard existing housing. A lot of the homes in our rural communities are getting to be a little run down, need a little work. We need to bring some additional new housing to those rural communities. And then the availability of suitable financing. So that's where rural development comes in to help with some of these rural communities and providing some financing for homes. Some of our partners in home ownership and repairs, of course, our realtors and lenders, our builders and our contractors. We do have loan packagers that assemble packages of loans for us. Of course, the rural communities, NIFA, we do work a lot with NIFA. Our Nebraska housing developers, our nonprofits. We can use down payment assistance or closing cost assistance. We can work with a purchase rehab resale program. DED, we can get funding through the home funds, trust funds. Federal Home Loan Bank has money that we can partner with. Assistive technology, just a wide array of people that we can partner with to get the word out, to get some additional funding for applicants and put together the best package that we can for them. The big wow factor about our home purchase programs is that we are 100% financing. There's really no other programs in Nebraska or the nation for that matter, unless you're a veteran and you can qualify through the VA. There just aren't a lot of programs out there that have 100% financing. So we are not going to require you to have that down payment. HUD has some programs that you can get into a home pretty affordably, but they still require about 3.5% down payment. So again, this is the big draw to our programs, is that it is 100% financing. So what is the meaning of rural for our single family housing programs? So basically all the communities in Nebraska are eligible with some exceptions. We can't loan in Fremont, Grand Island, Hastings, Kearney, Lincoln, North Platte, Omaha, and Sioux City and Dakota City. So all of the other little rural communities in Nebraska are eligible for our programs. It's just what we would consider the bigger metropolitan areas that don't qualify. It's generally communities of 20,000 in population or less. So again, a lot of Nebraska qualifies, and we can get a lot of people into homes across Nebraska through these programs. So we have two very distinctly different programs. I like to equate that to a lot of the young kids wear these non-matching socks these days. It kind of drives me crazy, but they are very distinctly different. So the first one that we have is our 502 Direct program. Again, 100% financing, so no down payment required. So the primary goal of this program is to provide affordable quality housing to income eligible households. And as an example for income eligibility, our Direct program, a household of 1 through 4 people could make up to $57,300 in a year's time, and a household of 5 through 8 people could make up to $75,650. So pretty generous income limits. A lot of the rural communities may qualify under those income limits. We do have to count all household members in those income limits. So if you have grandma living in the bedroom down the hall, or you have Uncle Joe in the basement, we do have to count their income too, be it Social Security or if they have, income from a job. We do have to base it on the income of all household members. Now, under the Direct program, we can do new construction or existing dwellings. We do have mortgage limits under this program, but they're pretty high. They're up in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. So you can still construct a pretty nice home if you want to go with new construction. Excuse me, frog in my throat. This is a 33-year loan. Our current interest rate right now is the lowest it's ever been in the entire life of this program. It's at 2.5%. So that is pretty amazing. Then, based on your household size and income, you can qualify for a subsidized rate, which can take you to as low as 1%. Excuse me. A lot of people on a fixed income like Social Security, they can still be a homeowner under this program because of that subsidized rate and that low rate. We can finance repairs and closing costs up to the as improved appraised value. So a home doesn't have to be in perfect condition, which a lot of them probably aren't. So we can do some repairs and bring it up to standards for people under the program. Excuse me. And here are those mortgage limits that I mentioned. For McPherson, Logan, and Lincoln counties, it's $346,800. And all other counties in Nebraska are $265,400. So that's going to be your maximum mortgage limit under this program. But again, you can see those are pretty generous limits. And we're talking modest housing here. So we think we can do a pretty good modest home under those income limits. The next program that we have is our guaranteed program. It's the sock on the other foot, the other colored sock. So under this program, again, it's 100% financing, no down payment required. This is not just for first-time home buyers. Generally, our Direct program, we see a lot of first-time home buyers under that program. But this program, we have, I like to call them repeat offenders, but that doesn't sound very nice. But they do come back and use the program over and over. It's just a really good program for them. We do have income eligibility requirements under this program as well. And as an example of that, a household of 1 through 4 can make up to $90,300. And a household of 5 through 8 can go up to $119,000. So much more generous income limits under our guaranteed program. we can get a lot of rural Nebraska people financed for homes under the guaranteed program. Again, we do have to count all the household members in that income calculation. This is a 30-year fixed rate loan. Rates are really great right now. We're seeing record lows. So, I mean, this is a fantastic time to buy a home right now. The interest rate is negotiated with a lender. You actually make application with an approved lender, which is basically just a bank that participates in our program. So that interest rate is negotiated with the lender. There is a 1% guaranteed fee that can also be financed. So we can actually do 101% loan. There is also a 0.35% annual fee, which I like to say is a lot like mortgage insurance, but it's a lot cheaper rate than what your typical conventional mortgage insurance would be. We have no maximum mortgage limits under this program. So where the direct program had the 200,000 to 300,000, this has no cap on it. It's basically what those applicants' ratios can support. And again, we can finance any necessary repairs and eligible closing costs as supported by that appraisal. The other little neat tidbit, since they're on the webinar today, is we do a lot of partnership with NYFA on this program. So we get a lot of guaranteed NYFA loans. Shout out to NYFA, woo woo. So basically under this program, like I said, the applicant is the customer of the lender, and then the lender is the customer of rural development. We do a quick review once they submit the package and just make sure that they've underwritten it to our criteria. And then rural development issues the guarantee on the loan to that lender. So it's a 90% guarantee. So this is a very popular program with the lenders because of the guarantee, and of course with the applicants because of the low fees, the no down payment requirement. So again, this is kind of a little hidden gem. It's not real hidden because we do about 1,000+ loans a year in Nebraska under this program, but so much more we could do out in those rural communities once we get this information out and people know about it. The last program I want to just mention briefly here is we do have a 504 repair program. A lot of homes we see in the rural communities are getting a little rough, a little worn down, and we do have a program to make some repairs to those homes. In this picture, you can see on the right side there, it's a before and after, and it's just amazing to see the difference that makes. You know, what a difference for the community. You can tell that pride in home ownership has kind of been reborn there. It looks so good for that rural community. A little bit on that 504 program. It is for owner-occupied homes. We have loans and we have grants. The loan program is a 1% fixed interest rate. We can amortize it for up to 20 years. So a very low payment can be made. The maximum outstanding we can do at any one time is $20,000. So we can put a lot of repairs into a home like you see there. The grant program, you have to be 62 and older, and then there's some income and debt formulas that you have to meet as well. The lifetime grant assistance is $7,500. And as an example on the income limits, just like the other programs, has income limits, whole household. As an example, 1 through 4 people in a household, they can make up to around $40,000, and 5 through 8 people can go up into the $50,000 to $60,000 range of income in a year's time. But you know, under the repair program, the loan program, we can do about any kind of repairs that a homeowner wants to that home. Under the grant program, it is for health and safety only, but we can do furnaces, we can do roofs, we can do windows, we can do bathroom conversions, and like the example of the house, we can even do some exterior work to bring those homes up to standard. So just a really neat tool that's out there for homeowners and for rural communities. I know we all would like our communities to look the best that they can. So here's the most important thing probably. Here is my email address. If you have questions, want additional information, also our website is up there. Make sure you get the /NE on the end so you get to the Nebraska page. And, you know, I'm always available if you have questions or want more information about the programs. We also like to, you know, when we get a little bit back to normal, we like to come out to those communities and do presentations and share this information with the people in the rural communities. We're always open to do like a Zoom meeting. This is kind of the way of the world right now. So always welcome to contact me. We'll get some information out, do a presentation for communities or for groups. But again, it's just kind of a little secret tool that's out there for our rural communities that we really want to get the word out on and have everybody know is available. There's been a lot of funding the past few years, and we want to get those funds out to rural Nebraska. If we don't use them in rural Nebraska, they're going to go take those funds and give them to bigger states. They're going to go to Texas and California, and we want to keep as much of those federal dollars here in Nebraska because that's our home and we love it. So with that, that kind of ends my presentation. So I will turn it on back and let the next person go.
Thank you, Krista. Appreciate sharing your perspective there. Next, let's go to Tim and Shannon. If you could give an update on what programs that you've been working on and have especially found successful across Nebraska with affordable housing and development. Tim and Shannon, go ahead.
There we go. The Nebraska Investment, thank you, Congressman. The NIFA, the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority, is delighted also to be with you again on this conference. NIFA, just as a little background, is a state instrumentality. We're not a state agency. We're an instrumentality that helps Nebraskans access federally enhanced programs and resources. So our principal goal is to bring federal resources to the people of the state of Nebraska. We have a great board appointed by the governor. We have three real strong ag interests. There's three real strong ag proponents on our board. Of course, Steve Wellman, who's the Nebraska chair of the head of the Nebraska Department of Agriculture, is one of our board members, as well as Galen Frenzen and Warren Argenbright, both in the 3rd District, who are members of the ag community, quite prominent and active members in the ag community. So with their guidance and with the work of our great staff, Dudley Byer is here, we've been really involved in ag programs and housing programs. We have a great array of housing programs, as Krista articulated, with respect to multifamily housing, single-family housing. We work actively in disaster recovery programs and workforce housing. We also have a strong community development arm inside of our outreach department that provides technical assistance to communities like Geneva, Eric, who would be interested in finding resources to improve their community and improve the quality of life in their community. In addition to technical assistance, we make planning grants. We create resources for housing partnerships for active employees in those communities. And we're very proactive in tax increment financing to help people monetize those resources that come from local sources. We also do a lot of work in the medical community and in the industrial community with respect to solid waste disposal, hospitals, and medical and nonprofit. And all of those are done in conjunction with tax-exempt bonds and tax-exempt financing that we make available to communities, and we provide technical assistance for people to use that. But I think the program that we really want to talk about today is our Nebraska Beginning Farmer and Rancher program. We have a great relationship, and we've talked about it for years in your communities and also in our relationships, probably now in 16 or 17 years with 4-H and FFA. But the Beginning Farmer and Rancher program is a program that we've done for, I believe, since the late 80s. And to present on that, I would like to introduce our new executive director, Shannon Harner, who's going to give you a rundown on the Beginning Farmer and Rancher program. Shannon?
Great, thank you, Tim. I'm really happy to be with you this morning. I know it's an hour earlier where most of you are than it is where we are, so we appreciate you getting on to the session. Congressman, thank you for asking NIFA to present today. The Beginning Farmer and Rancher program, which we refer to as the Aggie Bond program, helps beginners obtain low interest ag loans through the issuance of tax exempt bonds to the beginner's lender. And that means that the interest income from the federal and Nebraska state tax is tax-free, allowing the lender to offer a lower interest rate to the beginning farmer than otherwise they would be able to have. The beginner's net current worth can't exceed $500,000, and they can't have owned a substantial amount of farmland previously, and substantial is defined differently depending on where you live. It's not more than 30% of the medium farm size in the county that you're seeking to own property in. A typical scenario for a beginning farmer would be that they're trying to purchase land that might have some farm buildings on it and some farm equipment, and possibly there might be a house also on that land. So NYFA would be able to help them with the items that are considered agricultural in nature, but not actually the house itself. So up to $552,500 for land and the permanently affixed structures, barns, silos, sheds, that kind of thing, but not the house. And then another up to $62,500 for used equipment and machinery. Breeding livestock would fall under that same category as equipment. The beginner would then need to begin operating, and they need to operate as a sole proprietor, not in a corporate entity, not in an LLC, just actually as a sole proprietor. They can hire custom help, that's fine. They just can't be part of an ownership structure in the business. Another point to note is the beginner has to find their own lender. So you go to whoever you typically would use as your bank, a private seller lender even, or a private investor lender. So it could be any of those types of ways to get into it. Generally it's a bank, but NYFA also has the ability to wrap the tax exemption around a land contract between the beginning farmer and the seller, as long as the parties aren't lineally related. So it can't be a father passing to a son and getting the funds in the middle that way. Option one would be for the beginner's lender to provide all of the funds themselves using our program. And option two would be for the beginner to use some joint financing from both their lender and then the USDA Farm Service Agency. There's a 50-50 program where the Farm Service Agency provides half of the funds and the beginner's lender provides the other half of the funds. And the tax exempt portion is provided by NYFA, and that would be wrapped around the non-federal portion of the fund, so just the NYFA side. If there is a house on the property, then none of the NYFA funds, the tax exempt loan, can go toward the house, but the FSA funds can go toward the house. So you can structure it that way if you do have a house that you want to purchase with it. So it can work that way. The FSA funds can be applied as a down payment money that covers the value of the house. So all of the loan terms would be negotiated between the beginner and the lender. So NYFA doesn't get in the middle of that. We just, once you've made the agreement with your lender about what your interest rate is going to be, then we jump in, we fund it with the bond and provide that tax exempt benefit. The beginner can have a guarantor on the loan, and if conditions change in the future so that the prevailing rates dip below the beginner's current rate, the loan can be formally modified through NYFA to obtain that better rate. Program activity. So in the 3rd district, we have served with this program 71 counties. So 748 loans for over 95.1 million since the inception of the program. So it is something that is active. We encourage people to utilize the program. The average interest rate in the last 5 full calendar years was 4.17%. That seems really high today, but if you look at it over the last 5 calendar years, that's a pretty good rate. Today, obviously, it would be lower than that. We would like to thank the Congressman for helping get through the House, the Moving Forward Act, which actually increases the amount. I noted that it was $62,500 for used equipment and machinery. That under the bill that has been passed in the House would actually equal the amount for land, so $552,500. We still have to do some work getting that passed in the Senate, however, but we do appreciate the efforts of our congressional delegation, and particularly Representative Smith. So thank you for that. I do note that there's a question in the chat that actually goes back to Krista. So maybe I'll throw it briefly back over to Krista to answer that question about the funding opportunities you talked about, whether they're available within communities in the village or city limits or outside of village and city limits.
Yeah, that's a great question. As long as the community is 20,000 or less in population, we can absolutely make them inside. And that's the majority of what we do, is make the loans within those small communities. We can do some rural properties. I know it's called rural development, but in our programs, rural means our rural community. So yeah, we absolutely can make them in any rural community that qualifies. Another thing that I will note is Norfolk and Columbus kind of went out of that 20,000 with the last census, but they are still grandfathered into our programs. So those actually qualify as well. But yep, absolutely. Rural communities, as long as they qualify, we're there, we can make those loans.
And while we're there too, we do have one other question I wanted to show. And the question is, what is your opinion on AFFH? And I believe that stands for Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. I think that's for everyone on the panel here.
Does anyone want to take that question?
I would just mention that we are obligated under all of our programs to be proactive with respect to the fair housing rules as they are promulgated by Congress. You know, Congress advances, Congress and the administration advance and pull rules back on us all the time. So whatever the current rule is, that's the rule we will enforce. And we're very proactive in that matter.
Yeah, and that's, I'll echo Tim's sentiments there. You know, fair housing, we're a federal program, so we're of course going to abide by any of those rules as well. We have no, you know, it's open to everybody regardless of who you are, or you know, those programs are available for rural Nebraska communities, citizens. So yeah, same thing here.
Yeah, I think the obviously the concept of fair housing, we certainly promote that.
Eric, I've put our NIFA graphic up on the screen. Is it coming through on your side?
It is actually not yet. I think you'll have to hit the share screen option there. There, it's coming up now. There you go. Perfect.
So the federal program matrix seems to be a little confusing when you hear it verbally, but we actually have put together for your file, Eric, and for distribution to the community, 2 slides that go through all the information that Shannon shared with you with respect to the Beginning Farmer and Rancher program. This first page just tells you the advantages of the program, and then the second page talks about some of the benefits and some of the eligibility issues. Again, these change just a little bit each year as Congress tweaks on this program, but it's been a very effective program over the years for beginning farmers and ranchers to acquire resources to start their operations. And so we're Dudley Byers information there is at the bottom, and if anybody wants this more sooner than the package comes out, please contact either Dudley at NIFA or do info@nifa.org, or there's a reference there, learn more at nifa.org/farmer. All this information is on there. And Krista, like you mentioned, we have a great array of housing programs too that we deploy in urban areas. Your loans are actually the best for unincorporated areas. Our loans work very good inside of incorporated areas. But between our 2 organizations, we have just a whole bunch of loan products for people that want to become home buyers in Nebraska. And then we also have, as you do, resources for communities who want to do multifamily housing because that's an important part of our community as well. Eric, that's about all the information I think we have on the NIFA side, other than to say thank you for the invitation.
We do have one other question that's popped up into the queue. The question is, does anyone in this group know any examples of rural housing areas using an opportunity zone to raise capital to increase housing stock?
I'm familiar with some opportunity zone efforts in Omaha, and we worked diligently to try and create, the governor's office worked diligently in the Department of Economic Development, worked diligently to create opportunity zones all across the state, an equal number in each congressional district. So I would say that the best source for the location of those districts is at the DED website. I will tell you that the benefits of the opportunity zone are just now beginning to be recognized. There were a lot of time constraints with respect to them, and I think we're seeing more people becoming interested in them, but the ones I'm familiar with so far are just in the Omaha area. I think we might have a couple of pending in Lincoln, but the ones I think that are furthest along are in the Omaha area.
Yeah, just to tag on to that, I think it was last week, could have been the week before, the Department of Economic Development did actually have an opportunity zone session, a seminar that was virtual. I'm not sure if that was recorded or not, but we can find out and send that information out. The final rules just really came out on opportunity zones. So I do anticipate, while neither Tim nor I are aware right now of an example in Nebraska, I think there are some that will be coming, because it's a good tool. It's just a tool that we haven't until now really had the rules around it fully fleshed out. More coming on that. So Andy, I see that's your question, and if you can throw your email up there, I'll try to get to you the information from the opportunity zone. Great, thank you.
All right, any other questions? I guess I will ask one. I noticed that the legislature passed a bill, I think they're calling it the micro TIF. And I'm just wondering, of course, this is pretty fresh, so you may not have been able to sort through all of the details yet, and I certainly understand that. But basically, it would empower individual landowners to access the tax increment financing strategy. And I'm just wondering if you see opportunities for what, with your work to include things like that.
Congressman, we're actually actively engaged in micro TIF conversations in 2 Nebraska communities, and NIFA is pretty excited about it for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is it looks like it empowers us to get that resource is more directly to the home buyer or the homeowner or the actual owner of the property without a lot of discount on the resource, and so that's pretty exciting. To get that resource to the home buyer on a house-by-house basis, as opposed to a developer into the kind of a macro basis. So we think we get more money there to them quickly, and so we're working on that. Secondly, it enables us to record that property at fair value on the tax rolls as opposed to a reduced value, which gets us the proper appraisal value. Many times in the non-metro areas, we have problems getting appraisals because TIF finance properties are transferred at a lower value and the real value is not in there, so it's hard to get the proper appraisal on it. So we think that that helps too. I think thirdly, there's one other thing that we're talking about, and that is the capacity to use that resource to create a longer term of affordability over time. Many times the TIF financing benefit is lost after the first owner. Our houses that we build can last for 100 years. And we'd really like to have that value of affordability continue over time to create an affordable resource. And so this micro TIF capacity gives us the ability to do that as well for communities that want to preserve affordability in their communities over time. So we're really excited about it and look forward to working with communities.
Tim, there's another question that Andy Long had up there about the planning grants to move housing forward. not sure if that is the housing studies or specifically, Andy, what do you mean by planning grants?
So we have this, let's see. There we are, the planning grants. Okay. So I'm reading the second part of Andy's question. So NIFA has a regular system of planning grants that we'll fund half of the planning dollars for communities with respect to the portion of their housing program, or portion of their planning program that relates to housing. Many times communities are doing a comprehensive zoning restructure. We don't finance the whole comprehensive zoning restructure, but we do finance up to half that's related to housing issues and housing needs. And then for communities that complete that, we have a second stage, and we will fund up to 1/2 of the compensation of a housing staff member in the community. We'll fund 50% of that salary for 3 years in order to empower that community to get somebody who works full-time on housing in their community. And we've probably done several hundred planning grants across the state of Nebraska. And I think at any point in time, we have about a dozen communities in our housing partnership. I think the one that you probably hear most about is Schuyler, where we've been very proactive in helping them do not only affordable housing using the housing tax credit, but also workforce housing, of which we got, Congressman, a renewal of the workforce housing program for rural areas. And I understand the governor signed LB 866, which works this morning with respect to urban areas. So we now have a pretty strong resource in both rural and urban areas for workforce housing as well. And NIFA's resources can be used to deploy that money into actual programs.
Okay, very good, very good. Eric, are there any more questions?
No further questions are in the queue. Everything's been answered.
Surprisingly, it looks like we're right on time.
Well, again, I want to thank all of our panelists and certainly everyone who participated. Really appreciate this opportunity to have a conversation. If any of you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to my office. I know that there are a lot of moving parts to these issues, and if we can be of assistance, please let us know. We're living in some challenging times right now, and even amidst the challenges, there are several bright spots. And you know, we can't just gloss over our challenges either. So that's why your perspective and insight is important, and certainly to all of our participants. I really appreciate the fact you would take the time here. And just as was suggested with a chat here, I want to add my thanks to Tim Kinney for your many years of service. It goes without saying that we appreciate your work. Not only personally speaking, can I say that I appreciate your work, but the way you have done your work, I think is especially admirable, and we're grateful for your service. And I would imagine you'll still be around, and we're glad for that too. So
Thank you, Congressman.
As you hand off the baton, I want to certainly
the baton.
The baton.
There you go. Today, the remote control or whatever.
Yeah, the remote control. Well, thank you, Congressman. It's been a great joy working with you and your team, and I can't tell you, just what a wonderful job this is. You can't have a better job in the world than helping Nebraska and Nebraskans grow. So it's been a thrill to work with you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you, and certainly the work you've done and the success is very measurable, and the numbers speak for themselves in terms of what you've done. And Krista, thank you for your service at USDA Rural Development as well. It's vital as we, America's a big country, right? Nebraska's a big state, yeah. And as you out there's diverse needs across Nebraska. And, I always want to be mindful that the federal government doesn't get in the way. Oftentimes the best of intentions, Congress gets involved, and oftentimes the exact opposite result is achieved from what was intended, just because of the unwieldy, kind of clumsiness of the federal government. And so oftentimes, I hear from, constituents across Nebraska, I would say the most common request is to be left alone.
Yeah.
That they can achieve what they want to achieve, and generally other questions are kind of forms of that. And so we don't want the bureaucracy to stand in the way. We know that we want to work together to create more opportunity, and that's what I know you're working on right now, and that's what all of us are working on. So with that, I just want to again thank everyone for participating, our panelists and our participants across Nebraska and even beyond. So thank you for your work. I look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks.
Thank you.